Hi, I'm Lerone Coombs from Correctional Officers in the News. I'm here today with William Valentin from the New York City Department of Correction. I became familiar with him through the internet. About 2 years ago, I started seeing a lot of information that he was putting out about the New York City Department of Correction. A lot of things I didn't believe when he first introduced them to us, and I've come to realize that those things that he was saying about the union and about the department are true, which led me to want to find out more. So I went to a rally that he had Tuesday on Rikers Island, by the Rikers Island Bridge, and I had the pleasure of meeting him, and I asked him if he would like to do an interview so officers like myself can get to know him, and he can tell us what it is that he would like to tell us. So I'm here today with William Valentin, and I have a series of questions that I would like to ask him. It's probably the same questions that you would like to ask him if you had the opportunity. So we're going to start. We're going to jump right into it. Okay. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you work.
Okay. My name is William Valentin. I work for the Emergency Service Unit. I started out on the job in OBCC. From OBCC, I went to EMTC. EMTC, I went to High Impact Incarceration Program. That program is no longer in effect, but we got training as drill instructors for the inmates. And then from there, I went to the Emergency Service Unit, ESU, back in 1993. And from there, I became the ESU delegate. I was elected 4 times after that as delegate. Then after that, I went to the executive board. Had an opportunity to go onto the executive board, and I worked on the executive board for 5 years. I have 27 years of service, and that's pretty much it about me.
Wow. I mean, and you had mentioned earlier that you have a family history in correction, like your father was in correction. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
My father did 32 years in corrections. He retired as a captain from EMTC. He worked in HDM, Rikers Island Hospital. He's an old timer. Dad always told me, listen, you're here, learn the job. If you get in trouble, call me. Other than that, don't call me. So he pretty much, he told me, learn the job and get to do what you have to do. And I did. And the only time I ever called him for anything, when I tried to apply for the Emergency Service Unit for ESU. He made a call over there to one of the training people, and he said, look, give him an audition, and he'll do the rest. And the rest is history.
Wow. And this is relevant because a lot of us have family that are on the job. A lot of us have relatives that were on the job before we got on the job, and then a lot of us have children that are on the job. That's like right. Some of us that are retired, we have children on the job. I have a cousin that's a captain at OBCC. So all the things that you're talking about and all the advocacy that you're making for the officers at Rikers Island and throughout the department affects us too. Now, you said that you were elected delegate 4 times at ESU.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, how did you become affiliated with the executive board of COBA?
Well, like I said, I was a delegate for a while. We went to the different training sessions in New Jersey, and I got familiar with the board members. And there became a vacancy back in 2010 on the executive board. The vacancy was caused by Lassonde and Blake, former board members. They had a controversy, and ultimately were either removed or removed themselves from the union, creating 2 vacancies on the executive board. The executive board at the time wanted to fill those vacancies, and they took applications from delegates, and I was interviewed by the executive board along with many others, and I was called shortly after that. They voted, and they appointed me at first to my position as a corresponding secretary.
Okay. Well, that makes sense because I remember that situation with Blake.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I used to be a delegate also. I was a delegate from Bellevue before I retired in 2005. So I remember some of the people that you're talking about.
Right.
So now you're recording secretary of the union.
Corresponding.
Sorry.
That's right.
Corresponding secretary of the union. So how did that go? I mean, how was that experience?
Well, I've been a correction officer for a long time, and all of a sudden one day they're like, put on a suit, come down here, and you're the corresponding secretary. You know, full disclosure, we don't get no training or anything for that. You know, we just come in and we fill the spot. We're sat down. Listen, you know, here's a car. Here's an expense account. This is what you can spend money on. This is what you can't spend money on. It's for member services only, for the members. You know, here's your office. Here's your paperwork, and these are your duties. And basically, you know, my duties were given to me by the president and the vice president at the time. And slowly but surely, I tried to get involved in the things that I was good at, which was grievances, PESH complaints, you know, actions against the department and actions against the city. That I've always been pretty good with that. I write fairly well, so you know, they kind of put me into those areas. So I started doing that type of work. It was odd because I'm a correction officer. I'm a soldier. I came from ESU. I'm used to helping officers, and you know, when I got up there, it was a whole different environment, and I always kind of felt like I really didn't fit in around there, just because of the mindset of the people and the things that they felt were important and things of that.
So what year was it when you started with the executive board?
I started on the executive board in January of 2010.
Okay.
I was elected to my position of correspondence secretary in 2012, in the July elections of 2012.
Okay. So when did things start, you know, going off the rails between you and the union? Because, I mean, most people know that you're not part of the union right now, that
No.
there was some sort of controversy
Yes.
between you and Norman. So when did that start? How did that?
Well, I mean, me and Norman always had our little issues. I've been a delegate for a while, and as a delegate, my responsibility and my alliance is to my members. It's not to the executive board or Norman. It's to the members that voted me into my position. Those are the people that I represent. Those are the people that I stick up for. So when I saw problems that affected my members that I felt that the board or Norman wasn't addressing properly, I went in and I objected to those issues, as did most delegates at the time. I mean, I was appointed to my position as delegate in 1996. And then after that point, I was elected, like I said, subsequently every election after that. But the delegates used to be the ones that came to the meetings and so-called caused the ruckus, because the delegates' responsibility is to their members. So fast forward to now, if I were a delegate now and my members were being assaulted the way these officers are, if my members were doing doubles and triples, can't see their family, coming home in a daze, if my members, the second that they make a mistake, the book is thrown at them by the department, you know, and they're disciplined and prosecuted, I would have a problem with that. And I would be coming, if I saw that my executive board was not handling that, my first order of business at that meeting is to address that to the board, because we all work together. And the same way I'm a reflection of the executive board as a delegate, they're also a reflection of me. My members are suffering. It's my obligation to address that. Those are some things that I don't see happening right now.
Right. So when you were objecting to some of the things that were happening in the executive board, how was that received? Was that received like, okay, thanks for telling us, we're going to work on this, you know, you're right? Or was it met with resistance?
Well, a lot of officers that come out to the union meetings see a different part of the union than you see as an executive board member. Again, I had issues as a delegate for sticking up for my people, and they didn't like that. And then when I came in as a board member, I certainly had an agenda to address the issues of the membership successfully. And I had a lot of input and a lot of suggestions that were met with, I mean, they were dismissed. They were dismissed by the president. What I slowly saw was, I thought it was an organization where it was a team, like they say, and the team all worked together to come to get better benefits and forward the movement for correction officers, but I saw that it wasn't a team. It was a dictatorship. It was he said what goes, and shame on you, and God help you if you suggest otherwise. So many of my suggestions at the table would be met with dismissal. And then when I attempted to continue to argue the point as to why I made that suggestion, it was taken like as a hostility. And he would scream and yell, and you know, I thought that the other board members would, you know, stick together and address things, but that's not the case. That's not how it went down.
All right, so as you're feeling this disharmony in the executive board, and you're bringing things to the fore, and you're not getting the response that you felt that you deserved or should have gotten, is this what led to you? I'm going to assume that at some point you were contemplating running for president, right, or some other position other than corresponding secretary.
It wasn't as prevalent as it was recently, but it was certainly in the back of my mind. Like, hey, you know, I can do better. I can, instead of sitting up there and the only good ideas are my ideas, like he did. I would allow the board to make decisions and do things. And I mean, look, if 10 of us, at the time it was 10, now it's 15 with the bylaws changed, but at the time I came on it was 10. So if 10 of us are responsible for everything, then 10 of us need input, 10 of us need to vote, 10 of us need our suggestions taken. Don't get me wrong, they did put me in areas that they felt that I would be beneficial, like grievances and things like that. But most of the time it was when he was at odds with the department. He'd say, well, listen, I want these grievances taken care of. And I would go in and I'd take care of them. And I'd bring PESH and OSHA and outside agencies into the department to do investigations and find the department. You know, I wrote so many things for COBA. A lot of them were taken, you know, by Elias and by the president, you know, and used. And I was okay with that because I came from a team. So,
and it was benefiting the officers.
And it was benefiting the officers. But there were things that were suggested, like the Board of Corrections. 2 years before all of this mess, I suggested that we sit in on the Board of Correction meetings and allow these people to see the other side of the story. Those meetings are held by ex-inmates and inmate advocacy groups, crying and complaining about the conditions of Rikers for the inmates. But nobody was hearing the other side of the story. I asked to do this several times.
So hold up. Now, when the Board of Correction has these meetings, there's no one from the COBA representing the officers at these
Well, now there is, because we're in dire straits.
Okay.
But no, before that, no, never. And I requested it. I requested that myself and one of the attorneys, the in-house attorney, go to these meetings and be able to have a voice for correction officers. And I was told no. The same thing with punitive segregation. When I saw that they were making this move to abolish it, you know, I wrote a letter to the Board of Corrections. I wrote several letters, and I put them in, and I said, look, can I send these out? Can I address this issue? And I was told no. And, you know, fast forward 2 years, these are detrimental things that are affecting us now that could have been addressed, but because of egos and because of, oh, no, it's not my idea, so it's not a good idea, it was thrown aside. And those are the things I had a problem with.
Okay, so when did the wheels just fall off as far as your being part of the executive board? What brought that about, and you know, what happened? After
I was elected, I had a little bit more stability in the union, because as an appointee, they could get rid of you at any time. So I really didn't, I kind of like did what I was told, and like, you know, after I was elected, that's when I really started to get into it and read the bylaws and read the laws. And
in 2012?
After 2012,
okay, right.
I started to do that. And, you know, there was issues, and I'm looking at the board members, there's a prescription for what they're supposed to do, and then there's what they're told to do. And I see the disparity. And so, you know, I would go back and forth at the meetings with Norman, and, you know, the executive board would pretty much stay quiet. There would be one or two that would chime in every once in a while and say, you know, he's right, and he used to get irate with that. Well, I found out that a transaction was made.